the Trans Health Program at Thundermist. This afternoon, we're going to talk about how to change your identity documents. This is going to be focused on changes in Rhode Island. It's a lot of technical information, and there's also a corresponding document that lives on the Thundermist website. It does need a couple of changes that have happened the past few months that are not in the current version, but we will be uploading the current version or updated version later on this week. That will be there for you to be able to refer to as well. So if you want to bring up the PowerPoint, I'm going to kind of go through this both side by side with me talking with you, and then you'll be able to see the PowerPoint as well. I'm making sure my phone is off, and any other communication that might happen through the office is also has gone away. Maybe has gone away. Okay. So before I get started with this, just want to give you another quick little bit of context of my background in doing this work. I've been at Thundermist for 5 years now, and I came on board here to start the Trans Health Program. Prior to that, there was a couple of a year gap where I did some other social worker things. Before that, I was at Youth Pride for 5 years, and I started there as a grad student while I was going for my MSW. And one of the things that I learned right away about Rhode Island, and at that time, I had already come out a few years before that. So now we're going back 15 years when I came out and started going through the process of changing my own documents, and that was in Massachusetts. When everything had been changed and I started working at Youth Pride, realized just how there wasn't any document like this. There wasn't any sort of instruction for how to do things in Rhode Island, and things were not very clear. So I created a first document as a student that at one point lived on Youth Pride's website. A version of it has also, when work that I did with TGI, they had a version of it that's been up also. The Thundermist version's there's some sample documents, we've updated links, and so it's sort of a living document that's changed and evolved. The quick version of the very first version of this whole workshop that I created was, things are very clear, here's what we think might work, here's who to call if it doesn't work. Because there were no forms, there were no clear-cut rules, people were often not treated well, or people didn't know what we were talking about when we went because the rules weren't written down or clear. This is with any of the entities. So after the name change, the DMV, Department of Health, things were, and then even the federal stuff was a nightmare then. I'm so happy to say that the stuff that I'm going to share with you today is pretty easy. I mean, it's bureaucratic, and COVID has added a bunch of extra complications, and I'm going to explain that as well. Because a lot of things aren't happening in person, so there's extra steps, and everything's going to take longer, just to kind of say up front. There's a lot more of stuff having to be done through mail and not being able to do them in person. But there are forms, people are educated, there are policies, people are being treated well. I frequently hear folks say, I had someone I was working with, it was maybe a year ago now, who their family member helped them go through this process, and the family member said to me, I can't believe how progressive Rhode Island is, and that this process was just so easy. And thinking back on all of the work that I've done in advocacy with educating folks at the state and working with other advocates to make these changes happen, is really good to hear someone say, wow, it was seamless and easy, and I was treated well, and had no problems, and everyone knew what was going on, and it was fine. And so I want you to know, expect that. It's going to be fine. It's inconvenient. There's processes involved that take time, but it's going to be fine. And that's different than what you may have heard about how people were treated in the past, which stories I'll save for another day, but things were not always so easy, and people were not always treated well. So, all right, here we go. Are we able to? There we go. All right. So my quick little note as I go through this document, and we're going to figure out if we can upload this somewhere for people to find it, maybe a PDF version, um, which I didn't ask our folks to do beforehand, so I'm just throwing that at them now. Anything that I have in here that's like specific to COVID, I'm putting in a little symbol so you understand, like, this is what I know today based on where things are at and related to the pandemic right now. A lot of government agencies are changing how they do stuff, and I don't know when that'll change again. So the little caveat is some of these things may change. And if it's been a while since, we're doing this on June 30th, if you're not looking at this, if the recording is kept around and someone's not looking at this for a while, things might change. And so you're going to want to double check that the processes are still the same in regards to COVID and being on site and off site for completing documentation. Okay. So here's my little overview. My kind of look at this as I have a checklist version, but then this is more of my like Candyland version. It's sort of like we're going to go from one box to the next box to the next box and to move through this process. And it all starts with the name change. Once you get the probate court stuff going, I do recommend that people at that point talk to their medical provider to get the additional documentation that they'll need for changing gender marker with some systems, and I'll explain that. And then you go from there with those documents, include one letter from the medical provider to Social Security. That is the first ID stop after you do probate court name change. Once you finish Social Security, then you go to the DMV. Once you do the DMV, then we have the vital records piece. Now, it is possible to do the name change and then go right to vital records to do the birth certificate. Or if you get a couple of copies, to do them concurrently. A lot of folks do it in this order. Like, this is what I've recommended. Like, the thing that people want to have on hand is their ID and having the ID that you need on a day-to-day basis updated. And so while the birth certificate is important and you need to do it, and the court may say, go and do your birth certificate change first. First, don't go and do it unless you've got the documentation from your provider, because then you might have to go back twice. Or like go through the process twice. And also, it can be done in this order or concurrently to the Social Security and DMV process, which is why it's got like a little side arrow on it. Then once you've got really Social Security and the DMV, and the birth certificate is like a side piece of this, then it's changing all of the other things in your life, which will take a while. I've found things years after I changed my name that's needed to be changed. Things that you never would have, I never would have thought or like completely had forgotten about. And so I'll give you some of those tips as well. Here's a much easier to understand checklist version, and this is the version that's on the paper copy that Thundermist has on our website. And if you go to the Thundermist website under programs, you choose the Trans Health Access team. Under there's something that says helpful documents, and this is the version that you'll find that you can get from our website. So this is the step-by-step version of what I was just saying with you. The very first piece of this, and that should be where we go next, is locate your original documents. Because what happens is folks like, okay, I'm going to go and do probate court. Well, the first thing the probate court needs is a copy of your original birth certificate. And then people are stuck. If you've moved around, if you don't talk to family or have access to those documents, you're going to need to get the original one replaced before you even start this process. So that adds money and time. And so then it would be going to the Vital Records office if you were born in Rhode Island, or whatever state you were born in. This part, it's whatever state, whatever form of birth identity document you have, having the original copy of that. They won't take a photocopy. They're not going to take the little amended version. It's got to be a full-size, like notarized copy, or like official copy of the birth certificate for them to accept it. So that's just to get in the door with probate court. So knowing where your ID is, if you need to replace your ID, what folks may not realize, it's super hard if you don't have a birth certificate and you've lost your ID and you've lost your social security card. Replacing those documents becomes a little bit of a like circular like adventure, because they all want the other two to replace them. If that's the case, where you've lost all of them and you just don't know what to do, feel free to reach out to us. So the very first line that I put in the PowerPoint was the Thundermist, the trans health at thundermisthealth.org email address. Even if you're not our patient or just like, I don't know what direction to start in, we can help to point you in the right direction. If you're a Thundermist patient, one of those places will actually take a copy, a sort of like a notarized copy of your medical record, like the face sheet from it. We've seen that be able to work to get people a document replaced to be able to get other documents replaced. So that could be a whole separate adventure in and of itself. But let's say you've got all that stuff together. You know, if you found your birth certificate, you know, you haven't lost your ID, you know your social security number, like you have that stuff together, we should be okay to move on to the next place. So in Rhode Island, name changes are done through probate court. Probate court is done on the municipal level. So each city or town has their own probate court. You get to it through City Hall. So City Hall, Town Hall, you'll see something like the town clerk's office or like the city clerk's office. Like that's the probate court office. Fun fact, because Rhode Island has, 41 different towns, probate courts, there are almost 41 different ways that this is happening. The cost varies somewhat, and this is before COVID. The cost varies from town to town. The frequency of when probate court met was varied widely. Places like Providence do it twice a week. Places like smaller towns like Bristol did it once a month. A lot of places do it once a month. And so and then they want the stuff in so many weeks before they have the 1 day a month of probate court. So just time. Just be patient with this process. My recommendation is to call your city or town clerk office and just ask them what is their particular process, because you understand that the process can vary town to town, although you get the general sense of what you need to do. All the towns require the certified, notarized, official copy of your birth certificate, not just a random photocopy. It's got to have that official stamp signature to know that it's accurate. All towns require a background check, so the BCI check, and then the completion of the name change form, which when you're filing stuff on site, they have you fill it out there, because they've been, and because they notarize that form. So the official form, you can get it from the website, from the Secretary of State's office. If you just Google Rhode Island probate court name change form, it comes up there. You could fill it out in advance, but they may have you refill it out on their version, and don't sign it because they want you to sign it in their presence so that it's notarized. Okay, so some towns will say you're responsible for getting your own BCI check and turning it in. Some towns will say, no, we'll have you sign a form for us to get your BCI check, and it's $5. What I used to tell people was, it'll happen quickly if you go and get it yourself. But right now, I don't know that that's going to make much difference because of how long everything is taking. So I think just pick the easiest route for you. And I'm going to talk, so courts right now are allowing you to call the clerk's office. Again, every town is slightly different. You should be able to go into the clerk's office. Maybe you need an appointment in some places to file your document in probate court, file that you need a court date. It sounds like they're doing a lot of these kinds of probate court things, like the name changes, through virtual court appointments. And so they're scheduling those out. Also, they may just say, we're going to give you a date in a month. We're not sure if it's going to be in person or by Zoom, depending on where things are at that point in time. We'll check back in a couple days in advance of that time. So I'm hearing all these different sort of, this is how it's working, because we just don't know. So if they say right now, oh yeah, sure, we'll be in person because things are opening up and you can have 50 people in a room at that point in time, that could change. And they could say, oh no, we don't want people coming in. We're actually going to go back to doing it virtually. So right now it's just sort of be prepared for any of those, and to know that you might not get a court date right away. They may get back to you. And because the courts weren't open for a while, there's also a backlog of things that got canceled, and that they're trying to sort through a lot of stuff. So again, just patience through this process. Okay. When you finish the name change piece, I do recommend leaving with 3 copies. Right now, I recommend leaving with 3 copies of the final court document. So I think you get 1 copy when you do it. If you request 2 additional copies the same time that you're there, they tend to cost a little bit less than if you need to go back and get another copy later. One of those copies, you're just going to want to file it away and keep it forever, because it could come up, I don't know. For me, a name change issue came up 10 years later on a loan application that I didn't know my name change was going to show up in that place, but because it did, they needed proof that it was still me. So I dusted off my name change document from 2006 and was able to do that because I kept it. So try to put one of those away, because you never know when you're going to need it. Some of the other ones, when I talk about the next steps, because things are being done by mail, they need you to send in these original documents for these other steps, and then they will send them back to you after they get them and view them. So you're going to be, if you only have one, you're going to be waiting for a while when you send it out for it to come back to you, for you to do the next step. So I recommend just getting a few copies, so that way that doesn't hold you up. On the name change form for probate court, there's a line that says, the reason to change your name, be specific. What I've been told by legal advocates, and my recommendation, again, like, I'm not a lawyer, so none of this is legal advice. I'm an advocate and have helped people figure out how to navigate this stuff in the community. So also take that for what you will. I've been told that it's okay for folks to say preferred name, like common usage, the name that people call me, or just because, like something on this form that you don't have to say, I'm changing my name because I'm transgender. You can if you want to do that. That will be like live forever in court documents. So some folks don't want to do that, and they don't. So you don't have to. You can just say, I'm changing my name because this is what people call me. Even though it says be specific, don't let that make you nervous. All right, so on the BCI check piece, again, all for the name change. If you have to if the town won't do it for you, you can do it by mail. So if you go to the Rhode Island Attorney General's office, you can find there's a section that says background checks. You click on it and go to BCI. It gives you this information. You can complete the form. You have to get it notarized. And a notary, you can, if you use a bank that has a physical location, they may be able to notarize stuff for you. I know that folks who are Thundermist patients, they may be able to call and get an appointment, because we do have notaries on site. And so we might, if you're a Thundermist patient, I'd say give us a call, or call one of the peer navigators, or email us so we can help you figure that piece out. Otherwise, like banks, or there are lists of notaries that are out in the community as well. So you have to sign the form. Someone has to notarize it to saying like, yes, this is you signing the form. I verified your identity. And then include your own self-addressed stamped envelope for them to return you the document, send it off to the BCI. People think it's said like 7 to 10 days. They will, and with $5, it's not free. So it's $5, no cash. If you're doing it by mail, you can't use a credit card. It has to be a check or money order. If you go in person, you can use a credit card or check or money order. In person, if you're going to go to the AG's office, you don't make an appointment in advance. You go the day of. They want you to pull into the parking lot, And then if you go to their website, this little pop-up window that you can see here comes up, and it says, click on this to like verify, like hold yourself a spot in line. So then you put that in. I think you like put in your phone number. They will give you a text alert saying that you're next in line and you can enter the building. So they don't want you to walk in the building. If you don't have the internet access or the texting features on your phone, there's a number there that you can call as well. So that's how, just to get the background check. So then you can go to probate court, submit the paperwork, wait for the court date. Next step. Once that's in process and you know, like, okay, my court date is going to be coming up in a month, now my recommendation would be, hey, medical provider, would you be willing to fill out this document for me? Or I need a letter to change my gender with Social Security. I need a letter to change my gender with passport office. And if you're born in Rhode Island and you're going to change a gender marker on your birth certificate, there's a form that we do still need medical providers to fill out for that. You do not need a medical provider to sign any documentation or social worker or anything to change your gender marker with the DMV. So that is now under what we call self-attestation. So you're attesting to this is who you are and what you want to do, and don't need someone else to speak to you for that. I hope that we'll get there with the some of these other things, at least the state stuff. I know we're in process discussions on how does that work, but for the time being, at least these three, you need to get a documentation from a medical provider. And for medical provider, just to be specific, for the federal ones, for Social Security and a passport, if your medical provider is primary care provider, is a physician's assistant or nurse practitioner, the feds will not accept it. It needs to be signed by a physician. And so a hope would be someone in the office, if you have a nurse practitioner for a PCP, another physician in that office should be able to sign the document for you. Just let them know. They may forget, and I've seen people submit stuff and it get bounced back because the person who signed it's not a physician, and it will cause problems and delays. So just upfront, know it needs to be a physician. All things we've learned by trial and error, so you get to have the benefit of that information. One of the things, so for the passport and Social Security, it's a letter, and the letters are further down on the PowerPoint. This one, just wanted to show you, this is a document on the Vital Records website that the medical provider can be, and it says, are they a physician, nurse practitioner, physician's assistant? It can be any of those. Sign it, their license information on it. They have to get it notarized. And then get it back to you to submit with the other stuff, which I'm going to get to the birth certificate piece in a minute. I just wanted to show you this form. Okay, so hold on to your seats on what's happening with Social Security right now. So name change with Social Security is always pretty straight, like just easy to navigate. As easy as any federal bureaucracy system can be. So you've got to start with Social Security before you can change your name on your ID before you can change your name with the Rhode Island DMV, you've got to change it with Social Security first. So here's the deal. Social Security is not doing anything in person. You can't walk in there. It's all being done by mail. So this literally, like earlier today, went to the website and was trying to figure out, if I was one of you all watching this and was going to navigate this, would I be able to find the information that I need? And it was pretty challenging. In the end, if you get confused, I recommend calling them. There was actually very little wait time when one of our peer navigators called over to them and was able to get the information pretty quickly. Basically, here's the kicker. They are asking you to send in your original ID document. Like, they want you to send them your actual license. We verified, we called a couple times. I hope this information is incorrect and someone can update it and give us correct information. But we called the Social Security Administration. What they told us is they will not take a photocopy of your ID. They want you to mail them your actual ID or passport along with the form that you need, and the court document for the name change to help them verify who you are, and then they'll mail back to you your original documents, the court document and your ID. That means you could be going like 1 to 2 weeks without having your ID with you. Further down in that explanation, it does say that if you don't have that document, there are some other ones that they will accept. So you can try that route and look at it and try to advocate with them. This seems to be quite inconvenient and a problem, but I haven't heard about it working any other way. And that's kind of the best information that I have for you today, as of June 30th. They're telling us they want you to mail your actual license to Social Security. And you're mailing it to the local office. So you can find that on their website as well. So it goes to the local Social Security office, and they're dealing with it there. Okay, so in this link, the actual form for the name change, but there's no place on the form that says you're filling it out for a name change. Fill it out with the new information. But my recommendation is, because if you're doing it in person, you would just tell them. So my recommendation is, when you send your stuff in to this office, include a letter explaining what you're doing. Changing my name and gender marker. Here's my old name. Here's my new name. Here are all the documents I've included in this envelope, and that should give them the context that they need in a way that they can contact you easily. So that way, if they have questions, hopefully they would contact you. They may not. They may just send it back to you and say it's incomplete. Here's what you need to do instead. This is all new to us and not the way things before. It was like quick, go in, other than waiting possibly a couple of hours to be seen. It was a much easier process than everything is now under COVID. So for the gender marker change with Social Security, their website says they will accept any of these 4 things. Right away, we can take out the court order, because Rhode Island does not issue a court order for a gender marker change. We don't need it. So that one's not available to you if you're a Rhode Islander. If you're going to do the birth certificate route first, okay, you can do that, and you can wait and use that to show the gender marker change. Passport will take a while. So the one that I recommend the most is to get the signed letter from the medical provider, using their magic words for you've had appropriate clinical treatment, and know that they only have binary gender options available with their stuff. So the physician fills out that document, and then it may need to be notarized. Actually, I'm not sure that one needs to be notarized, but it specifies in here. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be notarized. So just the letter, again, physician, here's what it has to say. And I pulled this right from the Trans Equality website under how to get your documents changed. But if I don't have it in the end of this PowerPoint, but if you're a provider and you want a template of what the letter looks like, email us. We can send you the template that we use. Okay, so we've gotten as far as Social Security. Right, so that letter. Now, it gets easier from here. So Rhode Island driver's licenses, again, changing with Social Security first. If we were in person, I would say wait 48 hours between going to Social Security in person to going to the DMV, because the computer system has to update itself overnight. And so that's the recommendation, to wait 2 days for that to happen. That's not happening now. You're going to be waiting for your Social Security card to come in the mail. And so you just bring your new card with you when you go to the DMV. So if you're changing your name as well as your gender marker, again, you have to have the court order, Social Security card showing it's been changed with them. Your current ID, you'll pay the fee. It's $27 to have that updated, and they'll make you turn in your old ID and take a new picture. So be prepared for that. People don't like to be surprised knowing they're going to get a new picture taken. here's the new form. So this is like hot off the presses. I'm not sure if you've all heard this or not, but as of last week, Rhode Island now has the X gender marker available for our licenses and IDs. And this is super exciting. So in the number of years that we've worked around the DMV stuff, this is now the third or fourth version of the form that they have, and it's keeps getting better. So on this form, you sign it yourself. You choose your gender marker, the M, F, or X, and then the circle at the top of the picture that you see. I have this here because this is my favorite line on any form I've ever seen, and it comes from the historical aspect of how people were treated before and the really invasive questions people were asked a long time ago. This doesn't happen anymore. And the reassurance for you that it's not happening is that right on this form, it says employees will not request additional gender-related information, and that the information contained in this form is confidential and protected. Like, we used to get asked all kinds of inappropriate questions, and it was really difficult. I want you to know that that doesn't happen anymore. Like, it just doesn't. I haven't heard of that happening in 8 years since we've had a form at all that said this on it. So people are protected, and the DMV process, as much as the DMV can get a bad rap, this process moves really fast and smoothly, and they've done excellent work around this and making that happen. So I really thank them for just how far this has come. So this should be a piece of cake, and it does happen in person during COVID. So here are the here's the information that we have that's specific to the DMV for COVID. So basically, everything's being done in person by reservation only. You may get a reservation by going to the DMV page on the DMV homepage on the website. When you make the reservation, even though you're updating information, there's not an option in the dropdown to be going in to update your ID. You're going to want to select the one that says new license ID option. Oh, I got a question. Is there a Dropbox of Social Security? I don't believe so. I didn't see anything about that. If anybody else out there has the answer, I'm working on phone a friend. I haven't seen an answer to that one. Okay. Oh, now it pops up. So I don't know that there's a Dropbox of Social Security. That was not mentioned. It's nowhere on their website. It sounds like they want you to mail it. I would, but if someone out there can find that answer really quick, I think Logan, your navigator, is watching and was going to look. Let me see if. Nope, Logan checked. Logan says mail only. I wish they had a Dropbox, Lauren. Sorry, they don't. It's really inconvenient to have to mail your ID off, and it's completely ridiculous, but that's where they're at. So we're all doing the best that we can in the pandemic. Coming back to the DMV, when you're making the reservation, choose the new license ID option. You won't find an option for like changing my gender marker or updating my name. And so choose the new license ID option from the drop-down menu. In addition to the gender form, which is what I showed you here, you fill out the regular license form. I'm going to attempt to live dangerously for a second here and show you. So now you're looking at my desktop, which I have a bunch of the forms open there that I've had to use today. So this is the DMV form that goes along with just the form for anybody for license. So it also has the gender markers here, the M, F, or X. The ones they have in the office on site and may still be the old forms. If you're looking for the X gender marker and it's not on the form, write it in. I think it's just a matter of using up supply and when they'll get the new forms printed, but it exists. It's on the website. You can print it out yourself and bring it with you, and that's fine. So the cost to update a license or identification card is $27 unless it's time for your renewal. If you're close to the time when you just need to get a new license anyway, then you're going to be paying the full fee for the new license. If on top of that you want to do the new ID stuff, follow all of the additional guidelines around new ID and make sure you indicate that in the reservation stuff. I think there's a separate place to indicate that you're interested in that as well. Okay, so that's the DMV. Now for the birth certificate. So anyone who wants to change to the X marker, it's super simple. You just pick the box. Just all you have to do is check the box. So that's the only three options are M, F, or X. And I guess something to consider around the X gender markers in general, which also can happen on the birth certificate. So I'm going to show you that in a quick second. I think one of the big considerations for folks to look at around, do I want to have the X gender marker, is that when you have the X gender marker, it's a piece of always being visible, where there's not having and having to possibly explain stuff when you may not want to explain stuff to people who may not yet be up to speed with what's happening. So I think it may provide a lot of comfort and still some systemic oppression issues or concerns related to that kind of thing, that folks have to make the decision individually what's the best for them and how much energy are they going to have with that. And I'm so excited to have it, but it is definitely a privilege to be able to choose the X gender marker and that, as far as like being able to advocate for yourself, navigating safety and the other bureaucracy things that may come up or be questioned because of that. So on to, so does the X marker affect or complicate health insurance, passport? Yeah, so anything federal still has to have an M or an F on it, so you gotta still pick one. So if you're going for the X gender marker, you could, what you have with Social Security and DMV doesn't have to match. So if you're going from, if you're assigned male at birth and you're going to select the X gender marker for your ID, but the lesser of two evils would be to select the F gender marker for Social Security, you can do that. Social Security and the passport should eventually be the same. But there's only two options. We don't actually know what some of the ramifications might be when things don't line up. Not all hospitals or medical record systems have a third gender option. Some health insurances do have a third gender option built in, but a lot of codes are still gendered, and so that's a whole system that it does create difficulties. And so, but they're not going to fix those systems unless people are willing to step up into having that gender marker to force the change to have to happen when the systems start breaking because they're not made to have a third option. So that's, I think, a piece of it is having it in place to force the change to happen on those policy levels is all going to sort of move together with this process. So yes, it could complicate it. We're not exactly sure how in all the different realms that could happen. Okay, so for the birth certificate, you need a valid picture ID. If you're doing by mail, you can send in a photocopy of it, and the photocopy should be notarized that it's actually your official ID, or a picture ID. So it could be a license, it could be a passport, it could be any of the other ones that are listed there. The certificate of naturalization, the alien registration card, like any of those things would be acceptable. The fee that's required, and which I didn't have listed up here. Sorry, I apologize for that. And but I think it's around $20–30. Let's see if that's one piece of information that I missed getting an update on. I'll see if I can get that information for you. This is a signed letter from a medical provider, but it's actually a form that I'm going to show you. And then it says to complete in person appear in person to complete the affidavit. We're not appearing in person at the Department of Health. I'm not sure if you noticed, but we are in the middle of a pandemic. They're a little bit busy. The Department of Health is more than willing to help us. They have a drop box outside of the building, or you can send stuff through mail. So for the birth certificate, and they are completing them, but a lot of folks in the Department of Health have been reassigned to help with other COVID-related things for at least part of their time, and we want to limit the number of people who are in the building. Like, those folks need to stay healthy to help keep the rest of us healthy as well. So they are not letting folks into the Department of Health. It'll be done by mail. They'll call you. They'll clarify stuff if they have to. When you get the birth certificate changed, the regulations say the name section, as far as I know, this hasn't been changed yet. Next to your name, it'll say amended. It won't say what the old name was, but they'll say that it was amended from the original version. Next to the gender marker, it will not be marked as amended, so no one will know that on that piece of it. But as of right now, it's still, as the regs stand, the birth certificate does indicate that there was a change that was made at one point. This is the form that's on the Department of Health website that needs to be completed by a medical provider. Again, this one is physician, nurse practitioner, or physician's assistant. And I want to show you this really quick because it was a little hard to navigate. So I want to kind of walk you through. So from the home page of the Department of Health, we go to birth, death, and marriage certificates. From here, you would think under here, but it's not, under there. So this line here that says birth certificate, certified copies, what you need is change a copy. So if we look down here, on this side, it says change the birth, death, marriage certificate. Under changes, this line. So here's what you're going to look for. On this page, there's this one line that says, we've amended the sex field on birth certificates, which allows people to make the change to reflect their sexual gender identity on the birth certificate. Right next to this line, there's a button that says more. You click on the more, and it brings you to this other page that gives you all the information that you need about changing the gender marker on your birth certificate. So it tells you what documents you need. Again, that's that letter that needs to be signed. You need to also sign a letter, and it tells you here what your own letter needs to sign, which should also be notarized. And then a notarized copy of your ID. A lot of notarizing that's going to be happening. So this says, okay, the fee is here. So $10 to make the change. If you want a new certificate, which you're going to want a new certificate, it'll cost you $25 for them to mail you a new copy of your certificate. And then it gives a little bit of caveat. So you can choose the MF or X on the birth certificate, and it gives a little bit of caveat of what to consider, or concerns about between that document and the passport office. Like, we're not the only state doing this, and I haven't heard a lot about people having problems. And again, it's kind of forcing the system to change, but we don't know what weird problem you might encounter that needs to be dealt with, maybe to advocate around if that does come up for you. Okay, so let me go back to here. The form must be notarized. And then this is what I was just telling you. So they're not doing in-person appointments. You send in the court order for the name change, the form from the medical provider, the personal letter from yourself that's notarized requesting the change. And then again, mail or drop it off at the Department of Health. It's over in Providence, off of Smith Street. And then there's a wonderful woman named Melissa who will create an official request document at the Department of Health. She will mail you that document. It pulls in all the information that you sent her. It's like the application piece of it. And she sends you that. You, again, get it signed and notarized. Mail it or drop it in the box back at the office. She'll make the official change on the record of your birth certificate and mail you a new one if you requested that and included the money. I'm going to assume that's also because it's by mail, all check or money order, that they don't usually allow you to send cash through the mail. It's frowned upon, and that I don't haven't seen anything indicating that they're taking a way that you can pay with a card through through the mail. So assume that you don't need a check or money order to do that. And you may want to double check the cost with them to make sure you've got it all together. But I know on their website that was, if it was 10 plus 25, that'd be $35, right? Okay. So math. There are the name change piece. Like, what are you looking at for total costs to get this process done? Based on the things that I've shared with you here today, the DMV numbers are off slightly. I didn't get to update this. This is the 2750, and I think this number now has gone up a bit more, and I didn't get to update that. I apologize. The name change piece. These are varying widely. So there are some places in the state where the name change cost is very low, and some places where it's more. So it can range from 35 to 130. I've even seen one higher than 130. Then the BCI might be an additional $5 they want you to pay separately from the first fee. Sorry, I'm getting I'm having someone feed me the questions that you're posting online, but there's a little bit of a delay on this. If you have a child under the age of 18 with no license or ID, can they start the changes now? I'm not, so there is, you can still get stuff changed. So there's no age requirement on when these things get changed. If someone's going to get their first license and they've already gotten a new birth certificate, then they may not need the form. Like, that's going to be a pretty small number of folks. The issue that you're going to have with someone under 18 is going to be less about the document pieces and more about the name change itself. So to kind of back up to that for a quick second, name change if you're under 18 is likely going through family court. And so I say likely because there's a little bit of my notes are, so family court, probably filing what's called a miscellaneous petition. And that's if the family's been open to DCYF at all, it would go through that side of family court. If there's been any other sort of like divorce or other kind of family matter, like there's two different sides to the family court. That's where you would go. Sometimes family court says, we don't have any involvement with you. You should go to probate court. And then the family goes to probate court. Probate court says, well, we don't do minors. You need to go to family court. And then the person's like, what am I supposed to do? So sometimes, rarely, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes families can get sent in opposite directions. The recommendation that I've gotten is Superior Court oversees them, and you may be able to go and file a petition at Superior Court. But at this point, you're probably going to want to consult with some, like a legal representative, to make sure you're not running around in circles. My recommendation is to go to GLAAD's website, and so that's going to be at the end of this presentation. And GLAAD has a pop-up ID project where they can connect you with a legal group that would be able to help you navigate that process. A lot of folks in Rhode Island, I mean, I just laid out the process for you. Like, you guys aren't going to need to do that, but there are certain cases where you may need an advocate to help you with that. And so GLAAD will be my go-to place for you to get assistance in that scenario. But so here's what we're looking at, kind of total cost-ish around pulling these things together. Again, the numbers are, the math is off a little bit because I didn't get to update this slide. I apologize. But you kind of get the idea of what we're going on. It's a lot of money, and it's a privilege to be able to do this. I also know there are people around from other states who are shocked at how that this can seem reasonable compared to the $300 to $500 it can cost in some other states to be able to do this process. So it's all relative, and I mean, if you don't have $10, you don't have $220. The resources around that, the GLAAD pop-up ID project did have, there was at one point in time funds where they were able to help around this for folks who met criteria. Sometimes there are funds that come through other organizations in Rhode Island. If someone is homeless, they should be able to access some of these things for no cost. I would say if someone is involved with an organization, or again, if they're a Thundermist patient, to contact us and have our peer navigators be able to assist them with trying to locate some source of funding. But there's not like a specific place you can go to and apply for funding. Okay. So there's other questions coming in, and I'm going to hold off for a second. All right. Outside of Rhode Island, you see we've kind of covered all of that piece of it. If you're outside of Rhode Island and you're like, how do I change my gender marker on my birth certificate in Ohio? Ohio may be one of the ones, spoiler, if you can't change it there, or there's a court hearing, like cases about whether or not people can get it changed. But if you go to the Trans Equality, or the National Center for Trans Equality website, /documents, it's their document change center. They do have a list. Let's see. So now you can see my screen again. That's the lad. So you go here, you can pick your state, you can pick your document. It includes other like immigration documents, military records, if you're born overseas, and walks you through those additional processes that are much more specialized as well. So that the resources are there for that. It's a bit outside my expertise. My recommendation is if you're so going to NCTE for anything that's on that level, if it's difficulty around navigating stuff, and it's New England based, then my recommendation would be to check with GLAD. So on the GLAD website, there is so if you go to their drop down, you go to Know Your Rights, you can choose by issue, you choose transgender from the drop down, and it brings you to this page. And then you can pick identity documents, and then there are states here that have information about that, information about our gender markers. I think it's a great, valuable resource to the community. Okay, next. Passports. So if you're going to change your gender marker on your passport, again, medical certification, the letter needs to be signed by a physician. They will send it back to you if you have it done by someone who's not a physician. They want the proof of legal name change. They want the updated ID. They want you to do, basically you're paying for a whole new passport. There are two things under the passport with caveat where you could choose a like temporary passport, or that you're in transition, or choosing the full one. I know very few people who've ever chosen to fill out the like in transition one, that the document just says you've undergone, because there's no specificity to what it means to have undergone appropriate clinical treatment. So appropriate clinical treatment is whatever you and the physician that you're working with decides is appropriate clinical treatment. There's no requirement for surgery. So, but funny enough, when I went looking for this information, at least what I could find, so going back to Social Security, there was no specific. They used to have like a form that had these magic words on it, and I couldn't find their examples are not seem to be available anymore. So I couldn't find that on the passport website either. But that's generally what you need from the form. Be prepared to pay the full price on that, which is well over $200 at this point, I think. Okay, so that brings us to the other practical things to change. You may not be able to do this the same day, or actually, I forgot to ask if this has to be done in person. You might be able to do this part online, so I apologize. I've got a little bit of a hole in my information here. Once you get your license changed, if you own a car, you're going to want to get the name changed with your car insurance and your registration. But you need the ID potentially to get it changed with your insurance. And if you have a loan on your car, you've got to go back a step and change them in that order, like updating the information with the loan company, update the information with the insurance to then get the updated name on your registration. On a side note, like I did a friend years ago, did not get the registration changed on their car, like just forgot about it. It's just not a thing that you think about. That person didn't think about it, and they got pulled over, and the registration had the old name, and their ID had their new name, and the person, the cop pulled them over was like, "Who's this person?" And then my friend was sort of stuck of being like, "I don't even know what to say right now," and then said it was me, and it ended up being fine. But that's a really scary place to put yourself in, and so I just want to don't forget to do that piece. It's another pain, but make sure you get back to car insurance registration fees. Getting your name changed on your bank accounts, getting new debit card, new credit cards. If you still have paper checks, which you kind of need for a bunch of this stuff, getting that stuff updated. Any loans that you have, student loans. If you're going to go back to school and you're going to need to get a copy of your transcripts, you're going to want to get that like name updated on your student records. On a little piece of that, a fun fact, when I got my name changed on where I went for my undergrad so that I could go to social work to graduate school, I had asked them, is there a gender marker on this form on the document anywhere? And they said no. And then I asked them to send me a copy so I could see exactly what was sent to the school. And I got it in the mail and it said Miss J. Watts on it. And I was like, okay, so there was no gender marker on it, but it was clearly there was a gender attached to the file somewhere because it came addressed. And then that actually created problems with the school that I went to because then they messed up my gender marker and it took a little bit of getting it fixed, which was weird. So if you're applying to college, after you've gotten this stuff changed, whatever transcripts you're going to need, you're going to want to get that updated. And if you are changing your gender marker, if you're assigned female at birth and you're changing your gender marker to like from an F to an M, if you're under 26, you have to register for the selective service if you're going to get any federal loans whatsoever. If you're over 26 and you're doing this, there is a form on the selective service website. I literally just Googled selective service transgender exemption, and there's a form, an actual form, and there's for an exemption because you're over 26, and one of the checkboxes is that you change your gender. It's a whole weird thing when we look at the military political piece, but I'm not speaking to that. I just want to get your student loans, like not have them be held up by your financial aid office because you forgot to do this piece. So just keep that in mind. It's a weird piece of the puzzle to make sure that that's updated because there's a federal law that you can't have student loans or get a federal job, by the way, if you were eligible for selective service and then did not register without a specific reason why you were exempt. Okay, so I think that covers most of, yes, all the things that I have here. There are a couple of questions that come through. If there are any other questions that you have, like I'll hang on for a few minutes for that. You can see here on this last slide, the trans health at thundermisthealth.org is the general like email box for our program, and so either myself or peer navigators would be able to assist you if you have further questions that we're not able to answer here today. So a question that came through specifically was how to change a child's birth certificate before they get their real IDs. So there's no, from what I remember around the regulations on the birth certificate, because, you know, what else would I do on a Saturday night other than reading the vital records regulations and seeing how they apply to us and how we should change them, was that there was not an age specificity on it. So like that can be done at birth, it can be done at 10, it can be done at 17. It's the same form. There's just a place where parent and guardian would sign it because the person's not old enough to sign it themselves. So that is possible to get changed before that. I will say, I don't know how this works with kids, but when I changed one of my like federal documents, I think it was when I got a passport, everything else had been changed. I didn't need to provide the passport office with anything additionally to get a passport. But what I've seen happen, like it was a weird loophole that folks who did that at renewal are being asked to provide documentation that they were not asked to provide 10 years ago. So I don't know if there was ever a change with, for real IDs, it should be fine. But if you're talking about a passport, if there was ever a change, you changed it with Social Security at all ever, you're going to need to still get a letter from a physician to change it on a passport, or just to get a passport in general, even just to get a brand new one. I've seen them kick it back to say, and it's creepy to know that they know this. Like, we saw that there was a change in the system in Social Security. We need more documentation from you to put this gender marker on the record. So they're just making it a little bit harder right now. That used to not happen. So even if you've changed everything and you go to get a passport, include the physician's letter anyway, so that they don't hold you up and kick it back and tell you they need more information, because they will, unfortunately, right now, because they're being told to. That's my understanding. Okay, so I think that's it. I don't see any other questions coming through. Thank you all so much for your time and listening in. Again, transhealth.org. I'm sorry, transhealth at thundermisthealth.org. If you have more questions, and we will try to point you in the right direction. Thanks so much, and have a great day.